The Endeavour floated silently in the vast expanse of the Zarn Nebula, its hull gleaming under the light of a distant star. I stood at the bridge, a faint hum of machinery in the background, captivated by the swirling colors of gas and dust that stretched endlessly before us. As Captain Alex Reeve, I had seen wonders beyond imagination, yet nothing quite compared to the kaleidoscope of the nebula. It was a reminder of why we ventured into the cosmos to explore, to discover, to push the boundaries of human experience. "Captain, we're receiving an urgent transmission from the Galactic Council," my first officer, Lieutenant Samir Jain, announced, breaking my reverie. He turned from his console, concern etched on his face. "It's marked as Priority 1. I frowned, instinctively sensing trouble. The Council rarely interrupted our explorations unless it was something significant like war. "Put it through." A holographic projection flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of Counselor Thera, a Virexian with luminescent skin that shimmered like the stars. "Captain Reeve, we have an emergency," she said, her voice echoing with a commanding presence. "The Zarnath Empire has launched a campaign to subjugate the Drakorian systems. We need your assistance." "Assistance?" I echoed, glancing at Samir. "We're explorers, not soldiers." "This conflict poses a threat to the entire galaxy," Thera pressed on, her telepathic abilities amplifying her urgency. "The Zarnath Empire has technology beyond anything we've encountered. We fear that if they succeed, they will turn their sights on Earth next." I could almost feel the weight of her words sinking in. The Zarnath were known for their ruthlessness, their insatiable hunger for expansion. "What do you need us to do?" I asked, readying myself for the unexpected. "We need you to investigate the situation, gather intelligence, and assist the Drakorian resistance. Time is of the essence." "Understood," I replied, determination coursing through me. I was about to send my crew into the heart of danger, but this was what we trained for: the call of adventure, the allure of the unknown. "We'll set course for the Drakorian systems immediately." As the transmission ended, I turned to my crew. "You all heard that. We're heading into a war zone. I'll need everyone on high alert. Samir, plot the course. Let's move out." The Endeavour powered up, its engines humming to life. I felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as we broke free of the nebula's embrace, our course set towards the turbulent Drakorian territories. In my gut, a feeling of foreboding began to settle. We were entering a conflict we could barely comprehend, and our survival would depend on not only our skills, but also our ability to adapt quickly. The Endeavour glided through the void, and within a few hours, we were nearing the outskirts of Drakorian space. Our sensors picked up distress signals, frantic and disjointed, filled with static. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple ships in distress," Samir reported, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Looks like they're engaged in battle." "On screen," I commanded, leaning forward. The main display flickered to reveal the scene, a chaotic dogfight between Zarnath warships and a hodgepodge fleet of Drakorian vessels. Bright flashes of energy beams lit up the dark canvas of space, painting a vivid picture of desperation and valor. "They're outmatched," I murmured, recognizing the sleek design of the Zarnath ships. They moved with precision, a calculated elegance that came from centuries of warfare. "Captain, we should assist," one of my crew members suggested, a fiery glint in his eyes. "Hold on," I cautioned. "We can't just charge in without a plan. We don't know how many Zarnath ships are in the area, and their technology could be beyond our capabilities." A voice echoed through the comms, rough and crackling. "This is Commander Garth of the Drakorian Resistance. We need reinforcements. We can't hold them off much longer." "Commander Garth," I said, responding through our comms. "This is Captain Alex Reeve of the Endeavour. We're en route to assist. What's your status?" "We're outnumbered and outgunned. If you can provide cover, we might be able to regroup and mount a counter-offensive. The Zarnath are relentless." My heart raced. The thought of charging into battle, to possibly turn the tide of a desperate conflict, was exhilarating. "Understood, Commander. We'll engage the Zarnath. Keep your head down." "Good luck," Garth replied, and I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on my shoulders. Samir, prepare for tactical maneuvers. We'll use our agility to outflank them. The Drakorians need a distraction. Aye, Captain. Calculating evasive trajectories now. Pilot, engage thrusters to maximum. Let's give them a show, I ordered, adrenaline pumping through my veins. With a surge of power, the Endeavor propelled itself into the fray, weaving through the chaos as our shields flared under the onslaught of energy blasts. I gripped the controls tightly, focusing on the battle unfolding around us. Drakorian ships were struggling to maintain formation, and the Zarnath were methodical, picking them off one by one. Activating forward disruptors, Samir called out, his fingers flying over the controls. The Endeavor shuddered as energy surged through our weapon systems. We're locked on target. Fire! The ship jolted as our disruptors unleashed a volley of energy beams, striking a Zarnath ship that had been targeting a Drakorian cruiser. The enemy vessel exploded in a burst of light, and I felt a surge of triumph. "Nice shot," I shouted, feeling a spark of hope ignite in the pit of my stomach. But victory was fleeting as more Zarnath ships turned their attention towards us. "Captain, we're drawing their fire," Samir warned. "We need to take evasive action." The Endeavor shuddered as we dove sharply to the side, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy beams. I could see the Zarnath ships closing in, their formation tightening as they aimed for our hull. "Redirect power to shields," I commanded, feeling the tension rise among my crew. We were outnumbered, but we wouldn't go down without a fight. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the Endeavor, and alarms blared throughout the ship. "Shields at 50%, Samir shouted, his eyes wide with urgency. "Reroute auxiliary power to forward shields," I barked, my heart racing. "We can't let them breach our hull." "Rerouting now, but they're closing in." Just then, the image of Commander Garth flickered back on the screen. "Endeavor, we need to retreat. You can't hold them off alone." "We're not leaving you behind," I replied, my voice steely with resolve. "Don't be a fool, Captain. We need to regroup." Garth's voice was frantic. "No," I shouted, anger flaring within me. "We're humans. We don't run from a fight. We find a way to win." The moment hung heavy in the air, filled with the distant sounds of battle. I could see the determination in my crew's eyes. We were united in this struggle, ready to face the unknown. With renewed determination, I slammed my fist down on the console. "Samir, we need to initiate a boarding action. We'll take the fight to them." "What? Are you insane?" he replied, shock evident in his voice. "Trust me. If we can board one of their ships, we might turn the tide," I said, adrenaline surging through my veins. "Preparing docking maneuvers," Samir muttered, still skeptical. "Commander Garth, can you assist us?" I asked, my mind racing with possibilities. "We'll cover you. Just make it quick," Garth responded, his voice tense but unwavering. "All right, let's do this," I shouted, my heart pounding as we aimed for the nearest Zarnath ship. The Endeavor surged forward, colliding with the Zarnath vessel in a controlled impact. I felt the vibrations throughout the ship as we docked, a rush of exhilaration flooding my senses. "Boarding teams, prepare for action," I commanded, adrenaline coursing through my veins. As we moved through the airlock, the atmosphere shifted, anticipation crackled like static in the air. We were about to enter the unknown, a dangerous world where human resilience would be tested like never before. I led the charge, weapons drawn, ready to confront whatever awaited us inside the Zarnath ship. And so began our odyssey into the heart of the enemy's territory, a journey that would reveal the depths of human strength, ingenuity, and resilience against a backdrop of chaos and conflict. Little did we know, this was only the beginning of a much larger struggle that would challenge not just our lives, but the fate of the galaxy itself. The airlock hissed open, revealing a dimly lit corridor inside the Zarnath ship. The atmosphere felt heavy with an ominous weight, as if the very walls were infused with the remnants of countless battles. The metallic smell of scorched metal mingled with the acrid scent of burning circuitry, a stark reminder of the chaos unfolding around us. I signaled my team to advance cautiously, our boots echoing against the cold, metallic floor. The flickering lights overhead cast unsettling shadows that danced along the corridor. It was eerily quiet, save for the distant sounds of explosions and the frantic crackle of communication over the comms. "Stay sharp, everyone," I whispered, trying to maintain an air of confidence. "They may have guards stationed nearby." "Captain, I'm detecting life signs ahead," Samir reported, his voice low. "Looks like they're clustered together in a room just up ahead." "Let's move," I said, motioning for the team to follow. My heart raced, anticipation coiling tightly in my gut. This was our chance to turn the tide, to reclaim control in a situation that felt overwhelmingly against us. As we approached the door, I could hear the muffled sounds of Zarnath soldiers barking orders. It seemed they were in a state of chaos, no doubt trying to regroup after the boarding action. I took a deep breath, readying myself for what was to come. "On my mark, we breach," I instructed, glancing at my crew. Their expressions were a mixture of fear and determination, and I knew we were about to face something monumental. 3, 2, 1, breach. The door exploded open, and we surged forward, weapons raised. The sight that greeted us was a mix of horror and hope. A group of Drakorian soldiers were pinned against the far wall, their weapons drawn, but ineffective against the Zarnath troops that surrounded them. "Fire," I commanded, and my crew opened fire in unison. Energy blasted the room, striking the Zarnath guards before they even knew what hit them. The chaotic din of combat filled the air as my team engaged the enemy. I ducked behind a nearby console, using it for cover while taking stock of the situation. Zarnath soldiers were advancing, their sleek armor glinting menacingly in the dim light. They were trained, disciplined, and appeared unyielding in the face of our assault. "Captain, we need to regroup with the Drakorians," Samir shouted over the gunfire, glancing towards the corner of the room where the Drakorians were stationed. "On it," I replied, determination coursing through my veins. I darted across the room, dodging fire and ducking behind cover. The Drakorian soldiers looked battered but unbroken, and I could see the fire of rebellion in their eyes. "Get them out of here," I yelled to the Drakorian commander, who appeared to be directing his troops with fierce resolve. "We're here to help." "Reeve, we owe you our lives," the Drakorian commander said, his voice gravelly yet filled with gratitude. "We've been fighting against insurmountable odds. With your help, we might just stand a chance." "We need to take control of this ship and turn it against the Zarnath," I said, my mind racing with possibilities. "If we can reach the bridge, we can disable their systems and gain the upper hand." "Follow me," the commander urged, leading the way as we pressed further into the ship. As we moved through the corridors, the Zarnath presence felt more oppressive. The ship's layout was a maze of twisting passageways, each corner potentially concealing more enemies. I could hear the sounds of battle echoing in the distance, a constant reminder that time was against us. We turned a corner, only to be met with a squadron of Zarnath soldiers blocking our path. They were armed and ready, their weapons poised. Without hesitation, I raised my own weapon, adrenaline surging. "Take cover," I shouted, but the Zarnath opened fire first. Energy beams ricocheted off the walls as we dove for safety, narrowly escaping the onslaught. "Return fire," I barked, my heart pounding as I fought to regain my composure. My team responded with precision, firing back with calculated bursts. We managed to take down a few Zarnath soldiers, but the numbers were overwhelming. "Samir, can we disable their weapon systems?" I yelled amidst the chaos, desperately searching for a way to even the odds. "I'll try," he replied, fingers flying over his device. "But I need a moment." "Make it fast," I shouted, peering around the corner to gauge the enemy's movements. The Zarnath began to regroup, their formation tightening as they prepared for another assault. Just then, an explosion rocked the corridor, throwing me off balance. The air filled with smoke and debris, obscuring my vision. "Get ready," I shouted, raising my weapon. The smoke was thick, but I could hear the Zarnath approaching, their boots thudding ominously. In that moment of chaos, I spotted something glinting amidst the rubble, a Zarnath grenade. Without thinking, I lunged for it, scooping it up as the smoke began to clear. "Cover me," I yelled, my heart racing as I pulled the pin and tossed it toward the enemy. The explosion echoed like thunder, scattering Zarnath soldiers as they were thrown back by the blast. "Now's our chance," I shouted, leading the charge forward as the remaining Zarnath struggled to regroup. We pushed through the wreckage, determination fueling our every step. Finally, we reached a large doorway emblazoned with alien symbols clearly marked as the bridge. I motioned for the Drakorian soldiers to hold position while my team prepared to breach. "On my mark," I instructed, adrenaline surging. 3, 2, 1, breach. We burst through the door, ready for anything. The sight before us was astonishing, a vast control room filled with screens displaying tactical maps of the battle outside, each flickering with real-time data. Zarnath officers scrambled to respond to our intrusion, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. "Take them down," I commanded, firing at the nearest officer. The battle erupted anew, the air crackling with tension and energy. I could see the control panels were filled with buttons and levers, technology beyond anything we had on Earth. My mind raced, searching for a way to turn the ship against its captors. "Samir, can you access their systems?" I shouted, ducking behind a console for cover. "I'll try," he replied, his fingers moving rapidly over the controls. "If I can get past their security protocols, we can disable their weapons and shields." "Make it happen," I urged, focusing on the battle unfolding around us. Zarnath officers were falling, but they fought fiercely, unwilling to give up their ground. "Almost there, just need a few more seconds," Samir's voice strained with concentration, and I could feel the weight of time pressing down on us. "Watch out," one of the Drakorian soldiers shouted, pointing towards an incoming Zarnath officer armed with a plasma rifle. Instinct kicked in, and I lunged forward, tackling the officer just as he pulled the trigger. The shot went wide, hitting the wall instead, and we struggled for control over the weapon. "Get him," I yelled, grappling for dominance. The Zarnath officer was strong, but I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me, heightening my senses. With a surge of energy, I managed to wrestle the rifle away, shoving him back against the console. "Samir, how's it going?" I shouted, still grappling with the Zarnath officer. "Just a few more yes, I'm in," he exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. "Initiating lockdown protocols and disabling their systems now." A loud alarm blared throughout the bridge, the red lights flashing ominously. The Zarnath officers began to panic, realizing their hold over the ship was slipping. "Captain, they're trying to override the system," Samir shouted, panic edging into his tone. "Hold them off. We can't let them regain control," I barked, finally managing to throw the Zarnath officer aside, rendering him unconscious. With renewed determination, I pushed forward, firing at the remaining Zarnath soldiers as my crew rallied around me. Together, we fought fiercely, the tide of battle slowly shifting in our favor. "Captain, the Zarnath are retreating," one of the Drakorian soldiers reported, disbelief painted across his face. "We're actually pushing them back." "Good, let's keep the pressure on," I shouted, my heart racing with exhilaration. We were gaining ground, and I could sense the momentum shifting. "Initiating lockdown procedures now," Samir yelled, focusing intently on the controls. The screens around us flickered as the Zarnath systems began to shut down, their controls slipping further away. "Now," I commanded, my voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to take down the remaining ships. Set the weapons to target the Zarnath vessels outside." "Done," Samir responded, determination igniting his words. The Endeavor shook as the weapons charged, energy surging through the ship. I could feel the excitement and hope building among my crew. We were about to unleash our own fury upon the Zarnath fleet. "Prepare to fire," I commanded, adrenaline surging through my veins. "On my mark, 3, 2, 1, fire." The ship erupted in a brilliant display of energy blasts, the darkness as they soared toward the enemy vessels. The exhilaration was palpable as we watched the Zarnath ships explode in a shower of sparks, their forces crumbling before us. It was a sight that filled me with a sense of triumph, knowing that we had turned the tide in this battle against oppression. "Captain, we did it," Samir shouted, the weight of our victory sinking in. We actually did it. But as the adrenaline began to wane, I couldn't help but wonder about the implications of our actions. We had saved the Drakorians, but at what cost? The Zarnath might be beaten back today, but the threat they posed remained ever present. We needed to prepare for the battles that lay ahead. "Now we have to regroup and find a way to stop them for good," I said, steeling myself for the challenges to come. The Drakorian commander stepped forward, his expression resolute. "You've shown us the true meaning of resilience. Together, we will forge a new alliance, one that can stand against the tyranny of the Zarnath." The bridge of the Endeavor buzzed with newfound energy, the air crackling with excitement and determination. The Drakorian soldiers, who moments ago had seemed defeated, now stood tall, their spirits rekindled by our victory over the Zarnath. I turned my attention to the displays flickering around us, still reflecting the remnants of the chaotic battle. The main screen showed the Zarnath fleet in disarray, their ships retreating under fire. "Status report," I called out, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions churning within me. "Captain, the Zarnath are pulling back to regroup. We've managed to disable their weapon systems, but their remaining forces are still a threat," Samir responded, his fingers flying over the controls. "We need to act quickly if we want to capitalize on this victory." "Agreed," I replied, glancing at the Drakorian commander, who was studying the tactical displays with a furrowed brow. "What's the best course of action?" "We must pursue them," he said firmly. "If we allow them to regroup, they'll strike back with a vengeance. We can't let that happen." I nodded, feeling the weight of the decision. "All right, prepare the ship for pursuit. Samir, can you modify our weapons to optimize their effectiveness against Zarnath's shields?" "I'll get right on it," he replied, already absorbed in his work. As my crew moved with a sense of purpose, I felt a rush of adrenaline, fueling my resolve. We were on the cusp of something greater, and it was imperative we seize this moment. We pursued the Zarnath fleet, our ship weaving through the stars as they fled into the depths of space. The expanse outside was breathtaking, a tapestry of colors and distant galaxies, but my focus was locked on the mission ahead. "Captain, we're gaining on them," one of the Drakorian soldiers shouted, a hint of awe in his voice. "Good. Keep the pressure on," I urged, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Let them know they won't escape this time." The Zarnath ships were struggling to maintain formation, their once imposing fleet now fragmented. I could see panic flickering across their sensor readouts, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of triumph. "Adjust our course to intercept," I commanded. "We can't let them slip through our fingers." As we closed the distance, the Zarnath began to fight back, launching their weapons in desperation. The Endeavor shook as energy blasts grazed our shields, a reminder that the battle was far from over. "Shields holding at 85%, Samir called out, his voice steady despite the chaos. "But we need to counterattack." "Fire at will," I shouted, my heart racing. Energy beams erupted from our weapons, tearing through the void and striking the Zarnath ships. The dazzling display the darkness, a fierce dance of light and sound. In the heat of battle, I could see the Zarnath commanders scrambling to regain control. Their desperation was palpable, but so was the determination of my crew. We were a united front, a coalition of humanity and Drakorians, standing against a common foe. "Captain, I'm detecting a Zarnath ship attempting to break away from the formation," one of the Drakorian soldiers reported, pointing to the display. "Let's cut them off," I commanded, adjusting our trajectory to intercept. "They won't get far." The Endeavor surged forward, engines roaring as we closed the gap. I could see the Zarnath vessel, a sleek design indicative of their advanced technology, trying to maneuver away from the chaos. "Target their engines," I shouted, adrenaline pumping through my veins. "We need to disable their ship without destroying it." "Firing now," Samir replied, and I felt the jolt as our weapons fired in a precise volley, striking the Zarnath ship's engines. The ship shuddered, a burst of energy erupting from its hull as its systems faltered. It began to drift, vulnerable and exposed. "Boarding party, prepare to launch," I called, my excitement mingling with anticipation. "We need to find out what the Zarnath are planning. This could be our chance to gather intelligence." "Understood, Captain," one of my team members replied, gathering equipment and weapons. As we prepared to board, I couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was crucial. Our success depended on what we would find aboard that ship. The Zarnath had proven themselves formidable, but our resilience and ingenuity were proving to be even more powerful. The boarding shuttle launched, and I felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety as we approached the enemy vessel. The air was thick with tension as we docked and prepared to breach the Zarnath ship. "Ready?" I asked my team, looking each of them in the eye. "Let's do this," Samir replied, determination etched on his face. We stepped into the darkened interior of the Zarnath ship, weapons drawn and senses heightened. The air was heavy with the smell of burning circuitry, a haunting reminder of the battle we had just fought. "Stay close," I whispered, scanning the dimly lit corridor. "We need to gather intel and find out what they're planning." As we moved through the ship, the silence was deafening. The Zarnath crew was likely reeling from our attack, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they were not entirely beaten yet. "Captain, I'm picking up some unusual energy signatures ahead," Samir said, his eyes narrowing as he focused on his scanner. "It looks like they're powering up some kind of device." "Lead the way," I ordered, my heart racing. We pressed forward, and soon the corridor opened up into a vast chamber. Before us lay a massive control room, filled with Zarnath officers working frantically at consoles, their expressions a mix of fear and urgency. In the center stood a pulsating energy core, radiating a dark energy that sent chills down my spine. "What are they doing?" I murmured, realizing the significance of what lay before us. "I think they're attempting to charge a weapon," Samir replied, his voice low. "If they activate that core, it could devastate entire planets." "Then we can't let them do that," I said, steeling my resolve. "We need to shut it down." Just then, the Zarnath officers noticed us, their eyes widening in shock. Chaos erupted as they reached for their weapons, but we were ready. "Fire," I commanded, and my team opened fire in unison, energy blast tearing through the room. Zarnath officers scrambled for cover, but we were relentless, advancing toward the energy core. I could see the device pulsing with energy, and I knew we had to act quickly. "Samir, can you disable it?" I shouted over the din of battle. "I'll try," he replied, already moving toward the control console. "Cover him," I yelled, ducking behind a console as Zarnath soldiers retaliated. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel the adrenaline surging through my veins. As we engaged the enemy, I stole a glance at Samir, who was furiously typing commands into the console. The Zarnath were beginning to regroup, and I knew we needed to finish this quickly. "Samir, how's it going?" I called out, dodging a plasma shot that sizzled past my head. "Almost there, just a few more seconds," he shouted, his brow furrowed in concentration. I fought with renewed vigor, pushing back against the Zarnath forces. We couldn't afford to let them gain the upper hand. Too much was at stake. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the chamber, sending shockwaves through the room. I staggered but quickly regained my footing, my heart pounding in my chest. "Is everyone all right?" I shouted, looking for my team amidst the chaos. "We're good," one of my team members replied, their voice strained but determined. "Samir, we need that core shut down now," I urged, firing at a group of approaching Zarnath soldiers. "I'm trying, just hold on," he yelled, desperation creeping into his voice. With one final push, I surged forward, battling the remaining Zarnath soldiers as they fought to protect their weapon. My crew rallied around me, and together we pushed through the chaos. "Samir," I shouted, my voice echoing in the chamber. "We need to finish this." "I'm in," Just a few more seconds, he replied, fingers flying over the console. The energy core pulsed ominously, and I could see the Zarnath soldiers scrambling to regain control. Time was running out, and I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on us. "Now," Samir shouted, his voice filled with urgency. I turned just in time to see the energy core destabilizing, the dark energy swirling wildly. A blinding light erupted from the device, and I shielded my eyes, adrenaline pumping through my veins. "Get back," I yelled, feeling the heat radiate from the core. The core detonated in a spectacular display, a wave of energy washing over the chamber as the Zarnath soldiers were thrown back. The explosion sent shockwaves reverberating through the ship, and I felt myself being lifted off my feet. As the chaos settled, I blinked against the smoke and debris, struggling to regain my senses. The Zarnath vessel was in disarray, systems failing around us. "Captain, we need to leave," Samir shouted, rushing toward me. "Agreed, let's get out of here," I called, leading my team back through the wreckage. We sprinted through the corridors, the ship creaking and groaning around us as the Zarnath vessel began to self-destruct. The sound of alarms blared, urging us to escape before it was too late. "Which way?" one of my team members yelled, glancing around in panic. "Follow me. We can't let them trap us," I urged, pushing through the chaos. As we navigated the labyrinth of corridors, I could feel the heat intensifying behind us. We needed to reach the docking bay and escape before the ship was torn apart. Finally, we reached the docking bay, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. The shuttle was still intact, and we quickly boarded, securing our equipment. "Samir, get us out of here," I shouted, taking my seat as the shuttle powered up. He worked quickly, fingers flying over the controls. "Hang on." The engines roared to life, and we shot out of the docking bay just as the Zarnath ship erupted in a fiery explosion behind us. We soared into the depths of space, leaving the chaos behind as we regrouped and caught our breath. I turned to my team, my heart swelling with pride. "We did it," I exclaimed, unable to contain my excitement. "We stopped them." The cheers erupted around me, the sound echoing in the shuttle. I felt a rush of triumph, but as I looked out into the vastness of space, I knew our journey was far from over. The Zarnath threat still loomed large, and we needed to prepare for the challenges ahead. "All right, everyone, back to the Endeavor," I said, steadying myself. "We have a galaxy to save." As we docked back on the Endeavor, the atmosphere was electric with excitement. My crew poured into the ship, their faces alight with victory. We had taken the fight to the Zarnath and emerged victorious, but deep down I felt the weight of what lay ahead. "Captain," Samir called, rushing up to me with a look of urgency. "We've received a transmission from the Galactic Council. They want to debrief us immediately." "Great," I replied, forcing a smile. "Let's see what they have to say about our little escapade." The command center of the Endeavor buzzed with activity as we gathered around the central console. Holographic displays flickered to life, projecting the image of Counselor Lyra, her stern expression mirrored by the surrounding officers. "Captain Sutherland, you and your crew have made quite the impact in this engagement," she began, her voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of tension. "The Council has been monitoring your actions closely. We need your report on the Zarnath's plans." I nodded, feeling the gravity of the moment. "We managed to board one of their ships during our pursuit. We discovered that they were attempting to charge a massive weapon, one capable of devastating entire planets. We shut it down just in time, but we believe their intentions are far more sinister." Lyra's eyes narrowed, her gaze unwavering. "You're certain of this? If the Zarnath are developing such technology, we need to act swiftly." "Absolutely," I replied, my voice firm. "If we don't put a stop to their plans, they could unleash chaos across the galaxy." "Then we have no time to waste," she said, her expression shifting to one of determination. "We'll convene an emergency session of the Council to discuss our next steps. Prepare your team. We need every ounce of information you have." As the transmission ended, I felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. We had proven ourselves, but the stakes were rising. I gathered my crew in the main hangar, their faces lit by the soft glow of the ship's lights. "Listen up, everyone," I began, my voice steady. "We've accomplished something remarkable, but the real fight is just beginning. The Zarnath threat is real, and we need to prepare for whatever comes next." Samir stepped forward, his enthusiasm infectious. "We've gained invaluable intel. We need to analyze everything we collected from the Zarnath ship. If we can understand their technology, we can develop countermeasures." I nodded in agreement. "Let's get to work. Everyone, divide into teams. I want engineering looking at the tech we retrieved, and the rest of you should focus on strategizing our next move." The crew sprang into action, and I felt a surge of pride as they began to work with an intensity I had rarely seen. It was a testament to their resilience and determination. As I moved through the ship, I couldn't help but notice how the once disparate members were now a cohesive unit, each person contributing to our shared goal. In the engineering bay, I found Samir hunched over a terminal, analyzing data from the Zarnath ship. "Captain, you need to see this," he called, his eyes wide with excitement. "What did you find?" I asked, stepping closer. He gestured to the screen, which displayed schematics of the Zarnath weapon. "This is their core design. It's unlike anything we've seen before. But if we can reverse engineer it, we might be able to create a countermeasure, something that could disrupt their systems." "Can you replicate it?" I asked, my mind racing with possibilities. "Not replicate, but disrupt," he clarified. "If we can deploy a pulse that targets their energy signatures, we might neutralize their weapon before it can be fired." "Let's make it happen," I urged. "Time is of the essence." The hours turned into days as we worked tirelessly, driven by a shared sense of purpose. The engineering team, led by Samir, toiled away on the designs, while I strategized with my crew on how best to engage the Zarnath. "We need to know their next move," I said during one of our briefings. "The Council will be discussing our strategies, but we must anticipate what the Zarnath will do next. They can't be allowed to regroup." "Captain," one of the Drakorian soldiers spoke up, his voice steady. "We have some captured Zarnath prisoners from the battle. If we can interrogate them, they might provide insights into their plans." "That's a good idea," I replied, feeling a spark of hope. "Let's set up an interrogation. We need to get into their heads and understand what they're planning." The next day, we gathered in the interrogation room, a stark chamber designed for maximum efficiency. The Zarnath prisoners, restrained and confused, sat in silence, their reptilian features shadowed by the bright lights overhead. I stepped forward, my presence commanding. "You're here because you've chosen to fight for a losing cause. We're willing to offer you a chance at survival if you cooperate. We need information about your plans." One of the Zarnath, a burly figure with scarred skin, regarded me with defiance. "You think you can intimidate us? We are the Zarnath. We do not yield." I leaned in closer, narrowing my gaze. "You may not yield, but you will cooperate. Tell us what your leaders are planning. What is this weapon you are trying to charge?" The Zarnath hesitated, glancing at his fellow captives. "We are not the ones you should fear. The weapon was only a distraction." "A distraction?" I asked, my interest piqued. "What do you mean?" "The true threat lies beyond," he replied, his voice low and grave. "Our leaders have made an alliance with forces that even you cannot comprehend. They seek to unleash chaos on a cosmic scale." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What kind of forces?" "The Blight," he whispered, his eyes glinting with something that bordered on fear. "A race of beings that consume worlds. We were to serve as their vanguard, a means to weaken the Galactic Council. But now the tables have turned." My heart raced. The Blight were a myth, a legend whispered in the darkest corners of the galaxy. If they were indeed real, we faced a threat beyond anything we had imagined. "Where can we find them?" I pressed, knowing that time was running out. He shook his head. "They are not easily found. They move in shadows, but they will come when the time is right." I exchanged glances with my team, realizing that we needed to act quickly. "Thank you for your cooperation. We'll ensure your safety." As we exited the interrogation room, I felt the weight of what lay ahead pressing down on me. The Zarnath were merely the harbingers of something much darker. The Galactic Council convened once more, and I stood before them, sharing the revelations from the interrogation. The atmosphere was tense, the counselors exchanging worried glances. "Captain Sutherland, if the Blight are indeed real, we must prepare for their arrival," Counselor Lyra said, her voice steady but edged with concern. "What are your recommendations?" "We need to fortify our defenses," I replied, feeling the urgency of the moment. "We should collaborate with our allies and gather intelligence on the Zarnath's movements. If we can predict their actions, we might stand a chance." "I agree," another counselor chimed in. "We should mobilize our fleets and prepare for a possible confrontation." "We cannot underestimate the Zarnath," Lyra added, her expression grave. "They are dangerous and cunning. We need a multifaceted approach to deal with both them and the Blight." As discussions continued, I felt a surge of determination. We were not merely reacting to threats, we were taking control of our destiny. The resilience of humanity and our allies would shine through the darkness that loomed ahead. "Captain," one of the Drakorian officers spoke up as the meeting concluded. "What is your plan?" "We need to take the fight to the Zarnath," I replied, a fire igniting in my chest. "We need to find their command center, gather more intel, and disrupt their plans before it's too late." The officers nodded in agreement, their expressions steely with resolve. "Let's mobilize the fleet," I commanded, feeling the weight of leadership settle on my shoulders. "We'll show the Zarnath that humanity will not back down. We fight for our galaxy, and we will stand united." As we prepared for the impending battle, I couldn't shake the feeling of foreboding that settled in my gut. The Blight were out there, waiting, and we had to be ready. The crew of the Endeavor worked tirelessly, refining our strategies and strengthening our defenses. Each person contributed, their expertise shining through as we prepped for what was to come. "Captain," Samir said one evening, his voice filled with excitement, "I think we've finally cracked the code on their weapon systems. We can deploy a pulse that should neutralize their energy signatures, rendering their weapons ineffective." "Excellent work, Samir," I said, feeling a swell of pride. "Prepare the modifications for our next encounter." As we gathered in the command center, the reality of our situation began to sink in. This battle was more than just a fight for survival. It was a test of our resolve, our ingenuity, and our spirit as humans. With our plans solidified, we set our course for the Zarnath stronghold. The vastness of space loomed before us, filled with both danger and opportunity. As we neared the enemy's territory, a sense of anticipation filled the air. "Steady, everyone," I said over the comms, my voice firm. "This is it. We've trained for this moment, and we will fight together." The crew nodded, their expressions resolute. I could feel the energy surging through the ship as we entered the Zarnath's domain. The initial skirmishes began, our ships moving like a synchronized dance as we engaged the enemy. Each clash was a testament to our resolve, but the true test lay ahead. As we approached the Zarnath command center, the enemy forces swarmed around us, their ships darting in and out of formation. "Hold steady," I shouted, guiding the Endeavor through the chaos. "Deploy the pulse," Samir called, fingers flying over the controls. The ship shuddered as the pulse emitted from our cannons, striking the nearest Zarnath vessels. "Direct hit," one of my crew members exclaimed, the screen flashing with damage reports. But then, through the chaos, I spotted something that sent a chill down my spine, a massive Zarnath warship, larger than any I had seen before, looming in the distance. "Captain, that ship, it's the command vessel," Samir shouted, his voice tinged with urgency. "We need to disable it before it can retaliate," I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. "Samir, target their engines." The battle raged on, the sounds of explosions echoing around us. I felt the adrenaline coursing through my veins as we navigated the wreckage, determined to reach the heart of the Zarnath forces. "Watch out!" someone yelled as a Zarnath ship careened toward us. I gripped the controls tightly, maneuvering the Endeavor just in time to avoid the collision. "We need to get closer, engage with everything we have." With every ounce of strength and determination, we pressed forward, our weapons blazing. The Zarnath command vessel came into focus, and I felt a sense of purpose wash over me. "Now, Samir," I commanded, my voice ringing with authority. "Firing pulse," he replied, fingers dancing over the controls as the pulse shot toward the command ship. As the pulse hit, I watched with bated breath. The Zarnath vessel began to tremble, and the crew erupted in cheers. But just as victory seemed within our grasp, the ship released a shockwave that sent us tumbling. "Brace for impact," I yelled, the Endeavor rocking violently. "We're losing power," Samir shouted, frantically working the controls. "Redirect auxiliary power. We can't go down now," I urged, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on us. With a final push, we managed to stabilize the ship, and I glanced at the viewscreen. The Zarnath command vessel was faltering, its shields flickering as our pulse resonated through its systems. "Now's our chance. Let's finish this," I shouted, rallying my crew. With renewed determination, we launched our final assault, pouring everything we had into the enemy vessel. The explosions lit up the darkness of space, a brilliant display of light and sound as the command ship began to break apart. I felt a surge of triumph, but it was short-lived as a new threat emerged. "Captain," Samir shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "The Blight! They're here!" In the distance, a fleet of colossal ships appeared, their ominous forms shrouded in shadows. The very air seemed to thrum with an energy that felt foreign and menacing. "This is it," I muttered, my heart pounding. "We need to regroup and prepare for the next wave." As the Zarnath command ship crumbled into space debris, the emergence of the Blight fleet shifted the battlefield's atmosphere from triumphant to foreboding in an instant. My heart raced, and a heavy silence fell over the crew as we absorbed the reality of our new adversaries. "Captain, we need to get out of here," Samir urged, his eyes wide with fear. "Their ships are massive and—" "Not yet," I interjected, steeling myself. "We need to assess the situation. The Zarnath may be weakened, but the Blight are a threat we can't ignore." On the view screen, the Blight vessels loomed ominously, their designs grotesque and alien, pulsating with a dark energy that sent shivers down my spine. A wave of dread washed over me, but I forced myself to focus. "Bring up the tactical display," I commanded, feeling the tension in the air. As the holographic map unfolded, I studied the positions of both the Zarnath and the Blight fleets. "Captain, if we're going to fight this new threat, we need to prepare our defenses," Samir said, tapping at the console. "The Blight are known for their ability to disrupt technology. We must fortify our systems against their attacks." "Agreed," I replied. "Alert engineering to deploy protective measures immediately. I want shields optimized and weapons ready." As we scrambled to prepare, I couldn't shake the sense of urgency that gripped me. The Council had been right to fear the Blight, and now we stood at the precipice of a galactic confrontation. "Captain, the Zarnath are regrouping," another crew member reported. "They seem to be forming a defensive perimeter around the Blight ships." "Are they trying to protect them?" I wondered aloud. "Or are they being coerced?" "We need to find out," Samir replied. "If we can exploit their internal conflict, we might have a chance to weaken both sides." "Let's deploy a scout ship," I decided, my mind racing with possibilities. "We need to gather intel on the Zarnath's tactics and see how the Blight are planning to engage." "Who will pilot the scout ship?" Samir asked, his brow furrowed. "I will," I said, surprising even myself. "I need to see this with my own eyes. Besides, the crew needs someone to lead from the front." "Captain, are you sure that's wise?" Samir pressed, concern etched across his face. "It's risky." "Risky is our only option right now," I insisted. "Prepare the ship." A few moments later, I stood on the launch pad, the small scout ship gleaming under the bright lights of the Endeavor. I could feel the weight of my crew's eyes on me as I suited up, their expressions a mix of admiration and apprehension. "Remember, Captain," Samir said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Stay vigilant. We don't know what the Blight are capable of." "I will," I assured him, taking a deep breath before stepping into the scout ship. "Keep the channels open. I'll be in constant communication." As I launched into space, the vastness of the cosmos enveloped me, a beautiful yet terrifying expanse. The scout ship moved swiftly, and I adjusted the sensors to scan for enemy activity. Through the viewscreen, I observed the Zarnath and Blight ships intertwining like predators circling their prey. The Zarnath were attempting to regroup, while the Blight seemed to survey their new domain, their ships flickering with an unsettling energy. "Let's get a closer look," I murmured, piloting the scout ship toward the periphery of the Blight fleet. Suddenly, alarms blared, jolting me from my thoughts. "What the?" I exclaimed, glancing at the console. A warning light flashed, indicating a breach in my stealth systems. "Captain," Samir's voice crackled through the comms. "You're being targeted. They've detected you." "Understood. Engaging evasive maneuvers," I shouted, my heart racing as I swerved the ship sharply. The scout ship shook violently as I barely dodged a volley of energy blasts. The Blight ships moved with an unnatural precision, their weapons tracking my every move. I gritted my teeth, focusing on staying one step ahead. Come on," I muttered under my breath, hands steady on the controls. I could see the Zarnath command ship struggling in the distance, now partially engulfed in chaos. "Captain, you need to retreat," Samir urged, his voice strained. "You can't take them on alone." "I need to see how they react to a direct threat," I countered, determination fueling my instincts. With a surge of adrenaline, I piloted the scout ship closer to the Zarnath vessel, hoping to provoke a response. Just as I anticipated, the Blight ships redirected their fire, focusing on my position. "Engaging countermeasures," I shouted, releasing flares to distract them. The ship shuddered as I evaded another blast, narrowly escaping. "Stay strong," I called out, adrenaline pumping through my veins. "We need to gather more intel." Suddenly, I spotted something that made my heart drop: a massive Blight ship at the center of the fleet. Its dark hull pulsated with a foreboding energy, and as I focused on it, I noticed smaller vessels moving in sync around it, almost as if they were extensions of the larger ship. "This is it," I whispered, feeling a chill run down my spine. "I need to gather data on their command structure." But before I could do anything, the console erupted with alarms again. "Captain, they're closing in," Samir's voice crackled in my ear. "You need to get out of there." With no time to waste, I turned the ship sharply, feeling the pressure of the impending assault. I could see the Zarnath struggling, their ships becoming disorganized as the Blight pressed forward, taking advantage of their confusion. "Let's hope this works," I muttered, hitting the engines to maximum throttle. The scout ship shot away from danger, and I barely managed to evade another blast. As I soared back toward the Endeavor, I relayed the information I'd gathered. "They have a command structure that operates in harmony. We can exploit their overconfidence." Upon my return to the Endeavor, I was greeted with a mix of relief and urgency. "Captain," Samir exclaimed, rushing toward me, "what did you find?" "The Blight are far more coordinated than we anticipated," I replied, catching my breath. "They operate as a hive, and we need to disrupt that connection if we want a chance to win." "Then let's prepare," he said, determination burning in his eyes. "We can use their overconfidence against them." The crew rallied together, adrenaline fueling our plans as we strategized for the battle ahead. We needed to break the Blight's communication, sever their control over the Zarnath, and turn the tide of the conflict. "All right, everyone," I said, standing at the helm as we gathered for our briefing. "This is our moment to show the galaxy the resilience of humanity and our allies. We will not stand idly by while the Blight wreak havoc." As we prepped for battle, I felt a surge of camaraderie among my crew. Each person was committed to the fight, ready to face the unknown. Prepare the pulse disruptors, I ordered. We'll aim to target their command ship first. If we can take that down, we'll send the Zarnath into chaos and give us the upper hand. With a sense of purpose in the air, we set our course toward the Blight fleet, ready to confront the darkness head-on. As we engaged in battle, the chaos of the conflict unfolded around us. The Blight ships moved with a predatory grace, but we held our ground, working in tandem to unleash our attack. Now, I shouted, giving the signal to fire the pulse disruptors. The Endeavor shuddered as the blast surged through space, hitting the Blight command ship squarely. I watched as its dark energy flickered, the connection between its vessels beginning to falter. "Keep it up," I yelled, adrenaline coursing through me. "Push through their defenses." With each pulse, I could see the Zarnath becoming disoriented. The chaotic atmosphere among their ships was palpable as they began to falter, losing coordination under the pressure of our attack. "Captain," Samir called, excitement in his voice. "It's working. They're breaking formation." "Now's our chance," I urged. "Let's finish this." As our ships pressed forward, I felt a sense of hope blossoming. We were fighting not just for survival, but for a future free from the tyranny of the Blight. "Engage the Zarnath," I commanded, directing our forces to exploit the weakness. "We need to take advantage of their confusion." The chaos of battle raged around us, but we pressed on, determined to secure our victory. As I navigated the chaos, I spotted the Zarnath flagship, battered and struggling. It was time to confront their leadership. "Captain, we've breached their defenses," a crew member shouted, excitement bubbling in his voice. "Prepare boarding parties," I commanded, adrenaline surging. "We'll take the fight to them." With resolve, we launched our boarding parties, and as they stormed the Zarnath flagship, I felt a sense of determination wash over me. We would not let this opportunity slip away. "Let's show them what humanity is made of," I declared, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on us. As our forces engaged, I received a transmission from the Zarnath flagship. "Why do you fight us, humans?" their leader's voice echoed, a mix of confusion and defiance. "We are your allies." "Not anymore," I shouted back, my heart racing. "You've sided with the Blight, and now you must face the consequences." With renewed fervor, our crew fought valiantly. The tide of battle began to shift as our forces overwhelmed the Zarnath and pushed forward against the Blight. "Captain," Samir yelled, excitement in his voice. "We're breaking through. The Zarnath are in full retreat." I could hardly believe it. We had turned the tide. But just as victory seemed within reach, a powerful surge of energy erupted from the Blight command ship. A shockwave rippled through the battlefield, sending both Zarnath and our forces spiraling. "Brace for impact," I shouted, gripping the controls as the Endeavor rocked violently. "Captain, we're losing power," Samir cried, panic creeping into his voice. "No, not now," I yelled, fighting against the chaos. We were so close. With every ounce of strength, I fought to keep the ship steady. We had to see this through. "Redirect all power to shields," I commanded, determination fueling my every word. Just as the shockwave subsided, I glanced at the viewscreen, only to see the Blight command ship glowing ominously. "They're preparing for a final attack," Samir shouted, fear evident in his voice. "This is it," I said, my voice steadying despite the turmoil. "We need to end this now. Gather all remaining energy for one final assault." As my crew scrambled to comply, I could feel the weight of history on our shoulders. This was a defining moment, one that would echo through the ages. "Fire everything we have," I commanded, my voice resolute. The Endeavor shuddered as it unleashed its remaining energy, the combined power of our crew focusing on the Blight command ship. The energy blast erupted, a brilliant display of light cutting through the darkness of space. "Direct hit," Samir shouted, disbelief in his voice. As the Blight command ship staggered, I felt a surge of hope. "Keep firing, don't let up." With each explosion, the Blight vessels began to falter, their once menacing presence shrinking under the weight of our united effort. "Captain, the Zarnath are falling back," another crew member reported. "They're abandoning their posts." "Let's finish this," I urged, determination surging through me. As we pressed forward, the energy from our final assault erupted, tearing through the remnants of the Blight fleet. As the dust settled, I surveyed the aftermath. The once coordinated Blight forces lay scattered, their command ship flickering before finally succumbing to the void. "Victory!" someone shouted, and cheers erupted among the crew. "Not just for us, but for everyone," I added, feeling the weight of our struggle lift. "We've shown the galaxy what humanity can endure." As we regrouped, the Zarnath ships hesitated, confusion written across their faces. I knew this was a moment that could redefine alliances across the galaxy. "Captain, what do we do now?" Samir asked, glancing at me expectantly. "Now we reach out," I replied, determination flooding my veins. "We show them we are not their enemy. We can be allies in this fight against the true darkness." As I prepared to send a communication to the Zarnath, I felt a sense of purpose wash over me. This was a chance to forge a new path, to unite against the greater threats lurking in the shadows. The atmosphere on the Endeavor buzzed with energy as we assessed the aftermath of the battle. The remnants of the Blight fleet floated in the silence of space, a stark reminder of the threat we had just faced. "Captain, the Zarnath are signaling us," Samir reported, his eyes glued to the console. "They want to communicate." "Put them through," I replied, my heart pounding with anticipation. This was our chance to redefine our relationship with the Zarnath and possibly unite against the true enemy lurking in the shadows. The holographic projection flickered to life, revealing the Zarnath commander. He looked battered and wary, but there was a hint of respect in his eyes. "Human Captain, your actions today have turned the tide of battle. We are grateful." "Grateful?" I echoed, crossing my arms. "You allied with the Blight, a force that has wreaked havoc across the galaxy. Why should we trust you now?" "We acted out of fear," the Zarnath commander replied, his voice steadying. "The Blight promised power and protection, but we see now their true nature. You have proven your resilience today. Perhaps we underestimated humanity." His words hung in the air, and I could see my crew exchanging glances. "Trust must be earned," I said, my voice firm. "If we are to stand together against the Blight or any other threat, we need transparency. Will you commit to that?" The Zarnath commander nodded, his expression solemn. "We will share our knowledge and resources. We seek an alliance, one built on mutual respect and understanding." "Then let's begin," I said, feeling a surge of hope. "First, we need to assess the state of the Blight forces and ensure we're prepared for any remaining threats. We can't let our guard down." As the Zarnath commander shared their strategic data, I felt the tension in the room shift from suspicion to collaboration. My crew worked tirelessly, merging our knowledge with the Zarnath's insights. Hours turned into days as we combined forces to analyze the Blight's weaknesses. The Zarnath provided us with valuable intelligence about their command structure and communication networks, and in return, we shared our tactics and technology. "Captain, we've identified a significant vulnerability in their systems," Samir reported one afternoon, excitement crackling in his voice. "If we can disrupt their central command, we can cripple their remaining forces." "Then we'll strike there," I declared, determination washing over me. "Prepare our ships for a coordinated attack. We'll show the galaxy the strength of our alliance." As the fleet assembled, a sense of purpose enveloped us. The Zarnath ships moved in formation alongside ours, a stark contrast to their previous disarray. I could see the change in their demeanor and acknowledgement of our shared goal. "Communication is key," I reminded my crew during the briefing. "We must coordinate our movements flawlessly. Any misstep could lead to disaster." "We're ready, Captain," Samir assured me, determination etched on his face. "We've trained hard for this moment." With the battle plan in place, we launched into the void of space, our combined fleet a testament to the resilience of both humans and Zarnath. As we approached the Blight's remaining forces, tension crackled in the air. "Captain, we're picking up their signals," a crew member said, eyes wide. "They're preparing for an attack." "Let them come," I replied, steeling myself. "We'll be ready." As the Blight ships emerged, their grotesque forms warped through space like shadows. An eerie sense of foreboding filled the air. The time for action had arrived. "Now," I commanded, and our fleet sprang into action, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts. The combined might of the Endeavor and the Zarnath ships surged forward, striking true against the Blight. The chaos of battle erupted around us, a cacophony of explosions and flashing lights. I maneuvered the Endeavor through the fray, directing our forces with precision. "Captain, we're gaining ground," Samir shouted, excitement bubbling over as we pushed back against the Blight. "Focus fire on their command ship," I yelled, adrenaline surging through me. "We need to disrupt their coordination." As our ships closed in on the Blight's central vessel, I felt a sense of unity among our crew and the Zarnath. We were fighting for a common purpose, side by side against a shared enemy. "Direct hit," a crew member cheered, and I could see the Blight command ship shuddering under our combined assault. "Keep pushing. Don't let up," I urged, determination fueling my voice. But just as victory seemed within reach, the Blight retaliated with a fierce counterattack, unleashing a devastating barrage of energy blasts. "Captain, shields at 50%, Samir warned, panic creeping into his voice. "Divert all remaining power to shields," I commanded, gripping the controls as the ship shuddered under the onslaught. The battle raged on, and I could feel the weight of our struggle pressing down on us. We were so close, yet the Blight were not going down without a fight. "Captain, we need to change tactics," Samir urged, his eyes darting between the console and the view screen. "If we don't take out their command ship now, they'll regroup." "Then let's do it," I shouted. "Rally our forces and prepare for a final push." With renewed determination, we launched ourselves toward the Blight command ship, energy surging through our weapons as we prepared for one last assault. "Now!" I roared, and we unleashed everything we had. The combined firepower of our fleet hit the command ship, and I could feel the momentum shift. "Captain, we've breached their shields," a crew member exclaimed, and I felt a surge of hope wash over me. "Keep firing," I yelled, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "We can't let up now." As we pressed forward, I watched as the Blight command ship began to flicker, its power waning. "Direct hit, it's destabilizing," Samir shouted, and cheers erupted among the crew. "Prepare for their destruction," I commanded, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on us. As the Blight command ship began to implode, I felt a rush of triumph. We had turned the tide, united against a force that threatened us all. But just as victory seemed assured, a blinding flash of light erupted from the Blight ship, a final desperate act of defiance. "Brace for impact," I yelled, gripping the controls as the shockwaves surged toward us. The Endeavor shuddered violently, and alarms blared as we were thrown off course. "Captain, we're losing power," Samir shouted, panic rising in his voice. "Stay steady," I commanded, fighting against the chaos. "We'll regain control." Through the chaos, I could see the remains of the Blight command ship collapsing into itself, its dark presence finally extinguished. "Captain, we're losing the Zarnath ships," Samir yelled, desperation evident in his tone. "They're caught in the shockwave." "Redirect auxiliary power to stabilizers," I ordered, determination flooding my voice. "We have to save them." With every ounce of strength, I fought against the tumultuous forces at play, guiding the Endeavor through the wreckage. "Captain, we're stabilizing," a crew member announced, relief washing over me. "Redirect all power to shields. We'll protect the Zarnath," I shouted, focusing on the task at hand. As we maneuvered closer, I could see the Zarnath ships struggling against the debris, their forms battered but determined. "Hold on," I yelled, urging my crew to brace themselves as we closed the distance. With a surge of energy, we activated our shields, enveloping the Zarnath ships in our protective field. "Captain, we're taking fire," Samir warned, but we held our ground. With our combined strength, we fought back against the remnants of the Blight forces, protecting our newfound allies. As the chaos began to subside, I felt a sense of triumph swelling within me. We had done it. Together, we had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. With the Blight forces scattered and the Zarnath saved, I looked around at my crew, their faces with relief and hope. "Captain, we did it," Samir exclaimed, disbelief shining in his eyes. "Yes, we did," I replied, feeling a surge of pride. "This is just the beginning." As we prepared to regroup and assess the aftermath, I felt a sense of unity enveloping our fleet. We had forged an alliance in the face of adversity, and together we would stand strong against any threats that lay ahead. "Let's send a message to the Galactic Council," I said, determination filling my voice. "They need to know that humanity and the Zarnath have united. We are a force to be reckoned with." With our victory ringing in the air, I knew we had changed the course of our destinies. The galaxy would witness our resilience, and together we would face whatever challenges awaited us. "Prepare the transmission," I commanded, looking out into the vastness of space. "It's time to show the galaxy the strength of our alliance." The thrill of victory still echoed in my veins as we set the coordinates for the Galactic Council's main station. The Endeavor buzzed with the aftermath of our battle, a mix of exhaustion and elation enveloping the crew. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were standing on the precipice of something monumental. "Captain, the Zarnath commander is requesting a meeting in the briefing room," Samir announced, breaking my reverie. "Let's go," I replied, curiosity piquing as we made our way through the ship's corridors. The crew, weary but invigorated, passed us with nods and smiles, their spirits high after the triumph we had shared. As we entered the briefing room, the Zarnath commander stood waiting, his stance firm but respectful. "Human captain," he said, his voice steady, "I wish to discuss our next steps. Our enemies have been vanquished, but the shadows linger." "Agreed," I said, motioning for him to take a seat. "We've managed to turn the tide, but we can't afford to be complacent. We need to solidify our alliance and prepare for what's next." He nodded, his gaze piercing. "Our people have faced oppression for far too long. The Blight were merely a symptom of a deeper malady in the galaxy. We must unite not only to protect ourselves, but to prevent such threats from rising again." I leaned forward, intrigued. "What do you propose? A coalition? A joint task force?" "Precisely," he replied. "We need a council of our own, a gathering of allies to share knowledge, resources, and strategies. It must include all races who have suffered under the Blight's tyranny." "Then we need to extend our hand to others," I said, determination flowing through me. "But we must act quickly. The Galactic Council will be expecting an update from us soon." As we mapped out our plan, I felt a sense of urgency. The galaxy was vast, and we had barely scratched the surface of understanding its complexities. If we could forge a coalition, we might not only protect ourselves, but also inspire others to join our cause. "Captain, I've been analyzing the data from the battle," Samir chimed in, glancing at his console. "I believe we can identify potential allies who have remained silent, fearful of the Blight's wrath. If we reach out to them, we might be able to gather a substantial force." "That's a brilliant idea," I said, nodding in agreement. "Let's compile a list of races and send out initial contacts. We can hold a summit right here on the Endeavor." With our plan in motion, we worked tirelessly to prepare for the summit. Days turned into a blur as we reached out to potential allies, receiving mixed responses. Some were eager to join, while others were hesitant, still feeling the sting of the Blight's oppressive grasp. "Captain," Samir said one evening, the glow of his screen the dark room. "We've received a reply from the Varans. They're willing to meet, but only on neutral ground." "Neutral ground," I repeated, eyebrows raised. "Where do they propose?" "They suggested a moon orbiting a gas giant on the outskirts of their territory," he explained. "It's isolated, which makes sense considering their history with the Blight. Then we'll meet them there, I decided. It's vital that we establish trust from the outset. Let's gather our forces and prepare for the journey. The following day, we departed for the Veyron moon, anticipation swirling among the crew. As we approached the moon's surface, I marveled at its desolate beauty, a stark contrast to the chaos we had just emerged from. "Captain, we're entering the Veyron airspace," Samir announced, his voice steady. "Shall I initiate contact?" "Please do," I replied, taking a deep breath. "Let them know we're here." The Veyron ship approached, sleek and agile, its hull shimmering under the moon's pale light. A sense of tension settled in the air as we awaited their response. "Veyron vessel, this is Captain Alex Mercer of the Endeavor. We come in peace and with hope for alliance," I spoke into the comms, my voice firm but respectful. "Captain Mercer," a voice crackled through the speaker, smooth and melodic. "We are aware of your intentions. Approach with caution." The Veyron ship maneuvered alongside us, leading the way to a landing bay carved into the moon's rocky surface. I exchanged glances with Samir, who nodded, his excitement palpable. As we disembarked, the moon's atmosphere wrapped around us, cool and crisp. A group of Veyron representatives awaited us, their features ethereal, resembling a blend of liquid light and solid form. I felt a surge of awe at their beauty, but I also sensed their wariness. "Welcome, Captain," the lead Veyron said, his voice resonating with an otherworldly tone. "We appreciate your presence here. However, understand that trust must be earned." "I agree," I replied, maintaining eye contact. "We have no intentions of coercion. We wish to form an alliance based on mutual respect. The Blight threaten us all, and together we can stand stronger." The Veyron leader exchanged glances with his companions, their expressions unreadable. "We have witnessed the Blight's cruelty. Our people have suffered greatly, yet we have survived. What assurance do we have that humanity will honor this alliance?" I stepped forward, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on me. "We're offering more than words. We have already stood against the Blight and emerged victorious. Together, we can create a coalition that will protect our futures." After a tense silence, the Veyron leader considered my words. "Very well, Captain. We will join your alliance, but our participation will depend on your ability to maintain peace and stability." "Understood," I replied, relief flooding through me. "We will uphold our end of the bargain." As we concluded our meeting, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. With the Veyrons joining our cause, we had taken a significant step toward building a coalition capable of challenging the Blight and any other threats lurking in the galaxy. Returning to the Endeavor, the crew buzzed with excitement, the news of our new alliance spreading like wildfire. Samir grinned widely, his enthusiasm contagious. "Captain, this is incredible. If we keep building this coalition, we might just turn the tide for good." "I hope so, Samir," I replied, my gaze fixed on the stars beyond. "But we can't rest on our laurels. We need to keep reaching out and building trust with others." Over the next few weeks, we continued to gather allies, forging connections and creating bonds among the races that had once been divided. Each meeting brought new challenges, but our determination to unite against the Blight propelled us forward. "Captain, I've received a transmission from the Galactic Council," Samir said one day, a hint of unease in his voice. "They want to know about our progress and our intentions." "Let's prepare a report," I replied, sensing the weight of the moment. "We need to showcase our achievements and make it clear that we're ready to stand against any threat." As I drafted our report, I reflected on how far we had come. From the brink of annihilation to the formation of a united front, our resilience had become our greatest weapon. We were not just fighting for ourselves, but for a galaxy that had long been oppressed. "Captain, I think we should highlight the Veyron alliance in our report," Samir suggested. "It shows the Council that we're serious about creating a coalition." "Absolutely," I agreed, jotting down notes. "We need them to understand the magnitude of what we're building." With the report finalized, we transmitted it to the Galactic Council, our hope resting on the response we would receive. As we awaited their reply, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. "Captain," Samir said, his voice laced with urgency, "we've received a response from the Council. They wish to hold a special session to discuss our findings." "Good," I replied, my heart racing. "Let's prepare for the meeting. This could be our opportunity to solidify our place in the galaxy." As we arrived at the Galactic Council station, I could sense the tension in the air. Representatives from various races gathered, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. I stood before them, flanked by the Zarnath and Varan leaders, ready to present our case. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," I began, my voice steady. "We stand before you today as a united front, an alliance forged in the crucible of adversity. The Blight are not just a threat to humanity, they endanger us all." As I outlined our progress, detailing our victories and the alliances we had formed, I could see the Council members exchanging glances. The atmosphere shifted from skepticism to intrigue. "Your efforts are commendable, Captain," a Council member finally spoke. "However, how can we be certain that this alliance will hold?" "We've already demonstrated our resilience against the Blight," I replied, meeting their gaze. "Together, we can ensure peace in the galaxy, but we need your support." A murmur of discussion rippled through the Council, and I felt a surge of hope. This was our chance to rally the galaxy against a common enemy. As the discussions continued, I felt a sense of unity forming, as if the very fabric of the galaxy was beginning to weave itself together. "Captain Mercer," another Council member interjected, his voice grave. "What if the Blight retaliate? What measures do you propose to defend against potential attacks?" I took a deep breath, recalling the strategies we had discussed during our meetings. "We must establish a network of communication and defense systems, a centralized command to coordinate our forces, allowing us to respond swiftly to any threats." The Council members listened intently, their expressions thoughtful. "Very well," one of them finally said. "We will support your efforts, but we need a detailed plan of action to present to the Council." The discussions continued late into the night, and as I returned to the endeavor, I felt a sense of accomplishment. We had taken a significant step toward building the coalition we desperately needed. "Captain, I think we've done it," Samir said, excitement evident in his voice. "The Council is on board." I nodded, a grin breaking across my face. Now we can really start making a difference. But even as we celebrated, I felt a nagging concern lingering in the back of my mind. The Blight wouldn't remain idle, they would react, and we had to be prepared. Days later, as we continued our preparations, a transmission crackled through the comms, breaking the calm. "Captain Mercer, this is Commander Thrax of the Blight. We are aware of your gathering of forces and will not allow it to continue." I felt a chill run down my spine. The Blight were making their move, and we needed to act fast. "Samir, alert the crew and prepare for potential combat. We can't allow them to disrupt our plans." "On it, Captain," he replied, urgency coursing through his actions. As alarms blared throughout the ship, I felt a mix of fear and determination. This was it, our resilience was about to be put to the ultimate test. We had come too far to back down now. "Ready the weapons and shield systems," I ordered, adrenaline fueling my resolve. We will show the Blight what humanity and its allies are capable of. The ship vibrated with energy as we initiated our combat protocols, the air heavy with anticipation. I stood at the command console, heart racing as the first visuals of the approaching Blight fleet appeared on the screens. They moved like a dark storm, an ominous testament to their relentless pursuit of domination. "Captain, we're detecting multiple ships, at least a dozen capital vessels, heavily armed," Samir reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "They're closing in fast." "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," I shouted, gripping the edge of the console. "We need to get the crew to battle stations." The crew sprang into action, the adrenaline surging through their veins as they prepared for what could be the fight of our lives. I took a deep breath, recalling everything we had faced so far. We had overcome the odds before, and this time would be no different. "Captain," Samir called out again, his voice steady amidst the chaos. "The Varen and Zarnath fleets are on standby, awaiting our command." "Good. Inform them to hold their positions until we make contact with a blight," I instructed. "We need to coordinate our attack carefully." The seconds felt like hours as the blight ships advanced, their dark forms looming ominously against the backdrop of stars. My mind raced, strategizing how we could utilize our coalition effectively. We couldn't afford to underestimate the blight. They had orchestrated the destruction of entire planets, and their ruthlessness was unmatched. "Captain, they're hailing us," Samir announced, his voice tinged with urgency. "Shall I put them through?" "Let's hear what they have to say," I replied, preparing for whatever sinister proposal they might throw at us. The screen flickered, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows, the commander of the blight. His voice dripped with contempt as he spoke. "Humans and their feeble allies, do you truly believe you can stand against us? You've tasted victory, but it will be fleeting." "Your threats mean nothing to us," I shot back, my resolve hardening. "We stand united, and we will not back down." "Foolish sentiment," the commander replied, a sinister smile creeping across his face. "You may have the will to fight, but do you have the strength? We will annihilate your forces and erase your existence from the galaxy." "Come and try," I retorted, my heart pounding with adrenaline. "You'll find us more than a match for your tyranny." With a flick of my wrist, I cut off the transmission, knowing that the time for words had passed. "Samir, get our shields up and power the weapons," I commanded. "Prepare to engage the enemy on my mark." "Shields activated, weapons charged and ready," he replied, the tension evident in his voice. "Zarnath Fleet, this is Captain Mercer of the Endeavor. We're going to engage the blight. Hold your positions and prepare to flank them when I give the signal." "Understood, Captain," the Zarnath commander responded, determination resonating in his voice. "Varen Fleet, we need you to act as our aerial support. Keep their long-range weapons at bay while we engage," I instructed, my gaze locked on the approaching fleet. "Confirm, Captain. We will shield your rear," the Varen leader replied. As the blight ships closed in, my mind was laser-focused. I could see the enemy formations shift, their intent clear. They wanted to divide and conquer. "Hold steady, everyone," I shouted. "On my mark, 3, 2, 1, engage." The moment I gave the command, the Endeavor surged forward, weapons firing, and the ship rocked with the force of our attack. Blinding flashes of energy lit up the space around us as our allies followed suit, launching their own attacks against the encroaching darkness. "Direct hit on their lead ship," Samir shouted, excitement lacing his voice. "They're taking heavy damage." "Keep the pressure on," I urged, maneuvering the Endeavor into a tighter formation with our allies. "Flank them from the sides." The battlefield transformed into a chaotic symphony of explosions and laser fire. I felt the ship respond to my commands, every maneuver dictated by instinct and training. This was what we had prepared for, and I could feel the resolve of my crew fueling my determination. "Captain, we've got incoming fire from the left," Samir warned, his voice urgent. "Evasive maneuvers." "Bank right," I commanded, the ship shuddering as we dodged a barrage of blasts that would have torn us apart. "Varen Fleet is engaging the Blight's rear flank," a crew member announced, a note of hope creeping into the report. "They're holding strong." "Keep pushing forward," I called back, heart racing with the thrill of battle. "We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every world the Blight has ever tormented." As our forces pressed deeper into the fray, I felt the tide beginning to turn. The Blight were fierce, but their arrogance was their downfall. They had underestimated our resilience, and we were making them pay for it. "Captain, one of their ships is breaking formation. They're trying to escape," Samir shouted, his fingers flying over the controls. "What do you want to do?" "Don't let them get away. Set our course to intercept," I commanded, my voice cutting through the chaos. "On it," he replied, the Endeavor responding with speed. As we chased down the fleeing ship, I felt a surge of adrenaline. This could be our chance to capture their commander and extract crucial intelligence. We couldn't let this opportunity slip away. "Prepare a boarding party," I ordered, determination solidifying my voice. "We'll take their ship and gather whatever information we can." "Captain, the crew is ready," Samir confirmed, excitement bubbling in his voice. As we closed the distance, I took a deep breath, focusing on the task ahead. The Blight ship was a hulking mass of dark metal, and I could see the panic unfolding on its decks. They were losing their grip on the situation, and it was time for us to capitalize on it. "Engage tractor beams," I commanded, feeling the ship lurch slightly as we latched onto the enemy vessel. "Tractor beams engaged," Samir confirmed, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "We're pulling them in." As the Blight ship drifted closer, I could see the desperation etched on the faces of their crew through the viewing port. Fear coursed through them as they realized they were outmatched. "Boarding party, prepare to launch," I shouted, adrenaline coursing through me. "We need to secure the command center and take control." With a surge of energy, we activated the boarding pods, launching them toward the Blight vessel. My heart raced as I prepared to lead my crew into the unknown, ready to confront whatever horrors awaited us inside. As we breached the hull of the enemy ship, I was met with a chilling silence. The interior was dark, the flickering lights casting eerie shadows on the metallic surfaces. I could feel the tension in the air as we moved forward, weapons drawn. "Stay alert," I whispered to my team, my voice low but firm. "We don't know what we're walking into." "Right behind you, Captain," Samir said, his expression set with determination. As we navigated the narrow corridors, I felt a sense of unease creeping in. Every creak of the ship felt amplified in the silence, the anticipation hanging heavy. Suddenly, we turned a corner and were met with a squadron of Blight soldiers. "Open fire," I shouted, adrenaline surging as blaster shots erupted from our weapons. The Blight soldiers retaliated, and chaos ensued. Explosions rocked the corridor, smoke filling the air. My heart pounded as I fought, every instinct honed to survive. "Flank them from the sides," I barked, motioning for my crew to spread out. "We need to outmaneuver them." As we pushed forward, I could feel the tide of battle shifting. Our training kicked in, and I felt the resolve of my crew bolstering my own. "Captain, we're pushing them back," Samir yelled over the din. "We've almost reached the command center." "Keep moving," I urged, determination fueling my steps as we pressed onward. Finally, we reached the command center, the door standing imposing before us. With a nod to my team, we blasted the door open, ready for whatever lay beyond. Inside, we were met with the Blight commander, his face twisted in fury. "You fools," he spat, his voice filled with venom. "You think you can just waltz in here and take control?" "Your reign of terror ends here," I replied, my voice steady. "You're coming with us." The commander lunged forward, and I sidestepped just in time, bringing my weapon up. "Stand down," I ordered, the tension crackling in the air. "Your threats mean nothing to me," he roared, his defiance unwavering. "Then let's see how brave you are when your ship is taken," I shot back, feeling the weight of my resolve. With a flurry of blaster fire, the fight erupted around us. My crew and I moved as one, every action a testament to our training and unity. The Blight commander fought fiercely, but he was outmatched, and slowly we closed in. "Now," I shouted, and with one final push, we overpowered him, disarming him and pinning him to the ground. "Secure him," I commanded, breathing heavily as I stood over him, the victory palpable. As my crew restrained the commander, a surge of triumph coursed through me. We had taken down a symbol of the Blight's tyranny, and in that moment, I felt the weight of our resilience. "Captain," Samir called, a mixture of excitement and disbelief in his voice. "We did it. We captured their commander." I allowed myself a smile, the reality of our victory settling in. This is just the beginning. Now we have the chance to gather intelligence and turn the tide against the Blight once and for all. As we prepared to return to the Endeavor, I looked around at my crew, pride swelling in my chest. We had faced insurmountable odds and emerged victorious. The Galactic Council would hear of our triumph, and our resilience would inspire others to stand against the darkness. "Let's get back," I said, determination in my voice. "We have a galaxy to save." The journey back to the Endeavor was charged with exhilaration. As we made our way through the corridors of the captured Blight ship, I could see the tension beginning to dissipate among my crew. The gravity of our victory had yet to fully sink in, but the flicker of hope in their eyes was unmistakable. "Samir, get a secure line to the Endeavor. We need to report our success to the Council and get our forces ready for what comes next," I instructed as we approached the docking bay. "On it, Captain," he replied, his enthusiasm contagious. We boarded the Endeavor, the familiar hum of the ship surrounding us like a protective cocoon. I felt a sense of comfort wash over me, a stark contrast to the chaos we had just navigated. The command deck was alive with activity as my officers prepared for the next phase of our mission. "Captain on deck," Samir called out, his voice cutting through the chatter. Instantly, the room quieted, all eyes turning to me. "We have captured the Blight commander," I announced, a surge of pride filling my chest. "We'll be interrogating him for vital information on their strategies and weaknesses. This is our chance to turn the tide in this war." A wave of applause erupted around the room, and I couldn't help but smile at the resilience of my crew. They had fought hard, and this victory was ours together. "Commander Thal, gather your team and prepare for the interrogation," I instructed, turning to the Zarnath officer who had joined us for this mission. "We need every piece of information we can get to dismantle the Blight's operations." "Understood, Captain," Thal replied, a fierce glint in his eyes. "I'll ensure we extract every detail from him." "Excellent. We need to act fast. They'll be regrouping and planning their next move," I urged. "Samir, get me the Galactic Council on a secure line." "Right away, Captain," Samir replied, fingers flying over the controls as he established the connection. As the screen flickered to life, the council members appeared, their faces a mixture of concern and curiosity. I could feel their anticipation radiating through the transmission. "Captain Mercer, we've been following your progress closely," Counselor Eldrin said, his voice steady. "What news do you bring?" I took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling in. "We have captured a key Blight commander and gained valuable intelligence. We believe we can leverage this to mount a significant counteroffensive against their forces." "Impressive work, Captain," another council member interjected. "But the Blight will not take this loss lightly. They will retaliate." "We're prepared for that," I replied firmly. "Our coalition is stronger than ever, and with the information we extract, we can dismantle their fleet from the inside." "Proceed with caution," Counselor Eldrin warned. "The Blight are ruthless, and this could provoke them further. Ensure your ship is on high alert." "Understood," I affirmed. "We will keep our defenses ready and our eyes open. Thank you for your guidance, Council." As the transmission ended, I felt a surge of determination wash over me. We were in uncharted waters, but our victory had lit a fire within the coalition. "Samir, prepare for the interrogation. I want to be present," I commanded, my heart racing with the anticipation of what we might learn. "Right behind you, Captain," he replied, his expression serious. As we made our way to the brig, I mentally steeled myself for what was to come. This commander was not just a soldier, he was a symbol of the Blight's oppression, and we needed to break through his defenses to glean the information we required. The brig was dimly lit, the atmosphere thick with tension. The Blight commander was restrained, his eyes narrowing as we entered. The arrogance etched on his features spoke of his belief in invincibility, a dangerous trait we would need to dismantle. "Commander," I began, my voice steady, "you are going to help us. Tell us everything you know about the Blight's operations, their fleets, their strategies." "You think I'll betray my people?" he scoffed, a defiant grin stretching across his face. "You will never break me." "We'll see about that," I replied, my tone unwavering. "You may think you're invulnerable, but your kind has underestimated us before. And look where that's gotten you." Samir moved closer, eyes locked on the commander. "Your arrogance will be your downfall. This is not a game. Lives are at stake, and your allies are depending on you to lead." "Spare me your pathetic threats," the commander sneered. "You are nothing but insects in the eyes of the Blight." I exchanged a glance with Samir, signaling him to initiate our plan. "Then we'll make you feel every ounce of pressure we can," I said, stepping closer. "We'll show you just how resilient humanity can be." The Blight commander remained stoic, but I could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. "You think you can intimidate me? I have faced worse than you." "Perhaps," I acknowledged, leaning in closer. "But you've never faced a united front of humanity and its allies. We will not stop until we have what we need." With a swift motion, Samir activated a device that projected a holographic image of the Blight's known territories and operations. The commander's eyes widened momentarily as he took in the extent of our knowledge. "This is just the beginning," I continued, pressing the advantage. "Tell us where your fleets are positioned. Give us the information we need, and we might just let you live to tell your story." "Even if I told you, you would still fail," he hissed. "The Blight will crush you." "Try us," I replied, feeling the thrill of the challenge. "What do you have to lose?" The commander fell silent, weighing his options. I could see the internal struggle on his face, and I knew we were close to breaking through. The moment stretched as I maintained eye contact, silently urging him to choose wisely. "Fine," he finally spat, his expression darkening. "You want to know? The Blight are planning a full-scale assault on the Zarnath homeworld within the week." "Now we're getting somewhere," Samir said, the excitement evident in his voice. "Where will the attack originate?" "From the Gorgon Nebula," the commander replied, his tone begrudging. "A hidden staging ground where they gather their forces." "Coordinates?" I pressed, sensing the tide turning. "I won't give you anything else," he barked defiantly, but I could see the cracks forming in his facade. "Let's make a deal," I proposed, my tone shifting to one of persuasion. "You tell us the full coordinates, and I promise you will be treated fairly. You'll be a prisoner, yes, but you'll be alive." "Your promises mean nothing to me," he growled, but the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes told a different story. "I will ensure you are well treated," I insisted. "You may find that the humans you disdain are not as barbaric as you think." "Enough," he snapped, visibly agitated. "You think you can offer me something? I'll never trust you." "Then let's see how long you can last in this cell," I replied, maintaining a calm demeanor. "Your choice, Commander." The silence that followed was heavy, tension crackling in the air. Finally, he relented, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "You truly are relentless. Very well, I will give you the coordinates. But know this, the Blight will come for you with vengeance." "I look forward to it," I replied, my heart racing with the thrill of victory. With his reluctance fading, the commander provided the coordinates, detailing the hidden staging ground and the number of ships expected to launch the assault. Each piece of information he revealed was a victory for us, a step closer to dismantling the Blight's operations. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady. "You've made the right choice." As we concluded the interrogation, I felt a surge of determination. We had the information we needed, and now it was time to act. The Galactic Council would need to mobilize our forces, and we would have to prepare for a confrontation that could determine the fate of countless worlds. "Samir, get this information relayed to the Council immediately," I commanded as we exited the brig, adrenaline still coursing through me. "Right away, Captain," he replied, urgency lacing his words. The atmosphere aboard the Endeavour shifted, an electric energy humming through the ship as we prepared to mobilize our forces. The information we had extracted from the Blight commander was invaluable, and now it was time to turn that intelligence into action. "Captain, the Council is on the line," Samir announced, his fingers dancing over the controls. The screen flickered to life once more, revealing the anxious faces of the Galactic Council members. "Captain Mercer, we received your transmission. Counselor Eldrin said, his tone grave. "What do you propose?" "We need to move quickly," I replied, feeling the urgency in the air. "The Blight are staging an assault on the Zarnath homeworld from the Gorgon Nebula. If we act fast, we can intercept them before they launch." "Your assessment is correct, Captain," Eldrin nodded, his eyes narrowing. "But we must gather a coalition to strengthen our forces. The Blight will not be easy to confront, even with your newfound intelligence." "I understand, Counselor, but every moment we delay gives them time to prepare. If we wait too long, we risk losing everything we've gained," I urged, the weight of urgency palpable in my voice. "Very well," Eldrin relented, a hint of respect in his gaze. "We will call upon our allies and assemble a fleet. You'll lead the charge, Captain. But you must ensure the Zarnath forces are ready as well." "I'll coordinate with them immediately," I affirmed, a surge of adrenaline coursing through me. "We won't let the Blight catch us off guard." "Good luck, Captain," Eldrin replied before the screen flickered off, leaving me with a renewed sense of purpose. "Samir, contact the Zarnath," I instructed, determination radiating from me. "We need their forces ready to mobilize within the hour." "On it, Captain," he responded, his excitement palpable. As I made my way to the bridge, I could feel the pulse of the ship beneath my feet, a reflection of the heartbeat of my crew. We were a unit, forged in the fires of conflict, and now we would strike back. I gathered my senior officers for a quick briefing, my mind racing with strategies and contingencies. "We'll be operating in a hostile environment. The Gorgon Nebula is treacherous, filled with asteroids and cosmic debris. We'll need to navigate carefully," I explained, pointing to a holographic display of the nebula. "Understood, Captain," Thal said, his expression grave. "The Blight will likely use the nebula's natural cover to shield their ships. We'll use our smaller vessels to scout ahead," I continued. "If we can find their staging area, we can launch a surprise attack before they realize what's happening." "What if we encounter heavy resistance?" Samir asked, concern etched on his face. "Then we adapt," I replied firmly. "We've come this far by being resourceful. We'll need to outthink them at every turn." The crew nodded, the weight of the mission settling on their shoulders. We all understood the risks. The Blight were ruthless, and this was a critical moment for our coalition. "Let's move, people! We don't have time to waste," I shouted, the fire of resolve igniting within each of us. As we launched into space, the beauty of the galaxy unfurled before us. Stars twinkled like diamonds against the void, but I could feel the shadow of the Blight looming over our mission. The Gorgon Nebula lay ahead, a swirling mass of darkness and danger, but it was our only path forward. "Captain, we've received word from the Zarnath," Samir reported as we entered the nebula. "They're assembling their forces and will be ready to engage." "Good. Keep the communication open. We need to be able to coordinate our movements," I instructed, eyes scanning the view screen as we navigated through the dense field of asteroids and gas clouds. "Sir, we're picking up faint signals ahead," one of my officers announced, tension rising in the bridge. "It could be Blight vessels." "On screen," I ordered, heart pounding in anticipation. The view screen flickered, revealing a formation of ships partially obscured by the nebula's swirling gases. "There they are," I breathed, adrenaline surging. "Prepare for engagement. Weapon systems online." As we moved closer, I could see the telltale markings of Blight vessels, menacing and sleek, designed for one purpose: destruction. "Captain, their ships are heavily armed," Thal warned, studying the readouts. "We need to be strategic." "Agreed. We'll use the asteroid field to our advantage. We can flank them and hit hard," I strategized, the adrenaline heightening my senses. "Engaging the first wave," Samir called out, and I felt the ship shudder as we unleashed a volley of fire at the nearest Blight vessel. Explosions lit up the darkness, and the echoes of battle roared through the Endeavor. My crew was a well-oiled machine, each of us executing our roles with precision. "Adjust our trajectory. Let's get behind their lines," I commanded, eyes glued to the view screen. The chaos of the battle swirled around us, but I felt an uncanny calm settle over me. The Endeavour weaved through the asteroids, dodging incoming fire with deft maneuvers. The Blight ships struggled to keep up, their formations breaking as we disrupted their flow. "Fire at will," I shouted, and the ship erupted in a cacophony of energy blasts. One by one, the Blight vessels fell, their destruction a testament to our resilience. But just as victory seemed within our grasp, a heavy cruiser emerged from the nebula, its dark hull glinting ominously in the starlight. "Captain, we're detecting a significant energy buildup. They're preparing for a massive strike," an officer shouted. "Brace for impact," I commanded, heart racing. The cruiser unleashed a wave of energy that struck the Endeavour, sending us tumbling through space. Alarms blared, and I felt the ship shudder violently. "Damage report," I yelled, struggling to regain my footing as the crew worked frantically to stabilize the ship. "Shields at 50%. Engines compromised," Samir reported, his voice steady despite the chaos. "We need to retreat or we'll be overrun." "No," I refused, gripping the console tightly. "We've come too far to back down now. Thal, can we launch a counterstrike?" "If we can draw them in closer, we might be able to flank them," Thal replied, determination etched on his face. "Samir, activate the cloaking system. We'll sneak in under their radar and hit them hard," I commanded, a plan forming in my mind. As the Endeavour cloaked, I felt the tension in the air shift. We were no longer merely reacting. We were strategizing, turning the tide of the battle to our advantage. I could almost hear the distant thrum of victory calling us forward. "Steady," I murmured as we edged closer to the cruiser. "We wait for the perfect moment." The Blight cruiser scanned the area, its heavy weapons still reeling from our earlier attack. Just as it turned its focus away, I signaled to Samir. "Now, drop the cloak and fire everything we have." The Endeavour erupted from the shadows, a torrent of fire raining down upon the cruiser. The element of surprise shattered their defenses, and I felt the exhilaration of our attack pulsate through the ship. "Direct hit," one of my officers shouted, and the bridge erupted in cheers. "Keep up the fire, don't let up," I shouted, watching as the cruiser struggled to retaliate. Each blast felt like a strike for every world that had suffered under the Blight's reign. But the cruiser was not finished yet. It unleashed a counterattack, and I could feel the Endeavour shudder once more. "Reinforce the shields," I yelled, adrenaline coursing through me. "Shields are holding, but not for long," Samir shouted back, the urgency in his voice undeniable. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We need to stay on them," I commanded, my heart pounding. We were so close to victory, but the fight was far from over. The battle raged on, each moment filled with a thrill of combat. We were pushed to our limits, but the determination of my crew never wavered. Each victory we claimed fueled our resilience, and I could see the Blight's arrogance faltering. With one final push, we unleashed a barrage that tore through the cruiser's shields, striking at the heart of its systems. I watched in disbelief as the ship began to break apart, its reign of terror crumbling before our eyes. "We did it," Samir shouted, his face alight with triumph. But before I could celebrate, an alarm blared. "Captain, we're detecting multiple incoming Blight vessels from the nebula," an officer warned. "Reinforce our position," I shouted, the realization dawning that our victory might only be the beginning of a larger battle. "Prepare to engage. We need to hold our ground." "More ships than we anticipated," Thal called out, the urgency clear in his voice. "We can't take them all head-on." "Then we'll use their own tactics against them," I replied, my mind racing with possibilities. "Samir, activate the remaining drones. We'll create diversions while we regroup our forces." "Understood," he responded, activating the ship's drones, which scattered into the nebula to create confusion among the incoming Blight fleet. As the drones launched, I felt a surge of determination. We had faced overwhelming odds before, and we could do it again. "Gather the Zarnath forces. We need to combine our strengths," I commanded. "Communicating with them now, Captain," Samir replied, the urgency palpable. "Listen up, everyone," I shouted, my voice cutting through the tension. We've fought hard to get here, and we can't let this be the end. This is our moment to prove that we will not be broken. We stand together against the blight. A chorus of determined affirmations filled the bridge, the fire of our unity igniting once more. We were not just a crew. We were a coalition, united against a common enemy. With renewed determination, we launched into the fray. The Endeavor darted through the chaos of battle, dodging incoming fire and taking out enemy ships wherever we could. "Captain, we have Zarnath reinforcements arriving," Samir called out, and I felt a rush of hope. "They're flanking the blight forces." "Perfect, let's drive them back," I commanded, adrenaline surging as we pressed forward. The combined forces of humanity and the Zarnath surged into the fray, a powerful wave of resistance that the blight had not anticipated. Our unity was a force to be reckoned with, and the tide of battle began to shift. The blight vessels were caught off guard, and I seized the opportunity. "We'll push them back into the nebula," I shouted, directing our fire toward their flanks. As explosions lit up the darkness, I felt the exhilaration of victory surge within me. We were proving ourselves, showcasing the resilience that had become our defining trait. But even as we fought on, I knew that this was just the beginning. The blight would not give up easily, and we needed to be prepared for their retaliation. "Thal, Samir, keep tracking their movements. We need to anticipate their next move," I commanded, determination fueling my words. "We're on it, Captain," Samir responded, eyes glued to the readouts. With every ship we took down, with every surge forward, I could see the fear beginning to spread among the blight forces. They were realizing that we were no longer the disorganized resistance they had once faced. "Captain, we've managed to surround their remaining ships," Thal called out, his voice steady. "They're beginning to retreat." "Let's not give them the chance," I shouted, adrenaline coursing through me. "Push forward. Show them the power of our coalition." The remaining blight vessels scrambled to escape, but we pursued them relentlessly. The Endeavor surged forward, a beacon of resilience in the chaos of battle. As the last blight ship fell to our combined forces, I felt a wave of triumph wash over me. We had turned the tide, showing the galaxy that we would not be subdued. "Victory!" Samir shouted, a gleam of exhilaration in his eyes. But even as the cheers erupted around me, I felt a knot of tension in my gut. This was a hard-fought battle, but it was not the end. The blight would regroup, and we needed to be ready. "Status report," I commanded, heart still racing. "Damage control teams are assessing the Endeavor, but we've sustained minimal losses," Thal reported. "The Zarnath forces are ready to assist in repairs." "Good. We'll need to regroup and prepare for the next stage of this fight," I said, determination fueling my words. As we began the process of recovery, I couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was just the beginning. The blight would not forget the losses they had suffered today, and they would come back stronger. "We need to strategize," I said, gathering my officers once more. "Let's discuss how we can leverage this victory to our advantage moving forward." The crew nodded, a sense of unity settling over us as we began to formulate our next steps. We were not just fighting for ourselves, we were fighting for every world threatened by the blight. "Captain, the Council is requesting a status update," Samir announced, his tone serious. "Let's relay our progress," I replied, feeling a sense of responsibility wash over me. They need to know what we've accomplished. As we connected with the Galactic Council once more, I felt a sense of pride in what we had achieved. We had shown resilience in the face of adversity, and now it was time to plan our next move. "Counselors, we have successfully defeated a significant portion of the blight forces," I reported, my voice steady. "But we must prepare for their retaliation. We need to gather our allies and solidify our strategy moving forward." "Impressive work, Captain," Counselor Eldrin replied, a hint of admiration in his gaze. "But we must remain vigilant. The blight will not take this loss lightly." "We're ready," I assured them, determination clear in my voice. "We will not let fear dictate our actions. We will show the blight that they cannot break our resolve." As the transmission ended, I felt a renewed sense of purpose settle over me. We had achieved something extraordinary today, but the fight was far from over. The resilience of humanity and our allies would be our greatest weapon in the battles to come. "Let's get to work," I said, my heart racing with determination. We have a lot to do if we're going to prepare for what's next. The crew rallied around me, the fire of our unity igniting once more as we began to formulate our strategy. We were ready to face whatever the Blight would throw at us next. In the days that followed our hard-fought victory, the atmosphere aboard the Endeavour was charged with determination and purpose. The Galactic Council had called for a summit, bringing together leaders from various allied species to discuss our next steps against the Blight. I stood before my crew in the briefing room, the tension palpable as we prepared to present our findings. "Everyone, we've demonstrated our capability to confront the Blight and emerge victorious. But we can't let our guard down," I began, my voice steady. "We need to build on this momentum and create a united front. Our intel suggests that the Blight are regrouping and planning a counterattack." Thal nodded, his expression serious. "They'll likely target our weakest points. We need to fortify our defenses across all fronts." "Exactly," I replied, pacing before the holographic display of the galaxy. "We must identify key locations to reinforce and allocate our resources efficiently. I want every ship prepared for battle, and we need to establish a network of scouts to monitor Blight movements." Samir chimed in. "The Zarnath have offered to assist in building stronger defenses around their homeworld. If we can fortify that position, it'll give us a strategic advantage." "Let's make that our priority," I said, feeling the weight of leadership settle on my shoulders. "But we also need to reach out to other allies. We must convey the urgency of this situation and rally as many forces as possible. The more united we are, the stronger we will be." As we set to work, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. We were no longer a disparate group of worlds trying to fend off an unstoppable force. We were a coalition ready to stand against tyranny. The camaraderie between my crew and our allies blossomed, each interaction further solidifying our resolve. Days turned into weeks, and we worked tirelessly, fortifying our positions and preparing for the inevitable clash with the Blight. The Council convened regularly, and each meeting brought new allies to our cause. I could see the tide turning, a palpable shift in morale across the galaxy. One evening, as I reviewed strategic maps in my quarters, I received a message from Counselor Eldrin. "Captain Mercer, we've gathered significant intelligence regarding the Blight's next move. They're preparing for a massive assault on the Zarnath homeworld." "Thank you for the warning, Counselor. We need to move quickly," I replied, my mind racing. "I'll assemble our forces and prepare for an immediate defense." As I relayed the information to my crew, an electrifying energy surged through the Endeavour. We had trained and prepared for this moment, and now it was time to put our strategies to the test. "Battle stations, all hands to combat readiness," I commanded, adrenaline pumping through my veins as we readied the ship for war. The Endeavour surged through the stars toward the Zarnath homeworld, our allied fleet forming a protective barrier around it. The anticipation was palpable. We were prepared to defend against whatever the Blight threw at us. As we arrived, the sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Zarnath homeworld shimmered in the distance, a beautiful jewel in the void. But the shadows of Blight vessels began to emerge from the darkness of space, a harbinger of the coming storm. "Captain, we're detecting multiple Blight signatures," Samir reported, his voice steady even amidst the rising tension. "They're advancing in formation, likely intending to overwhelm our defenses." "Then we'll outmaneuver them," I replied, my resolve unyielding. "Thal, coordinate our ships into flanking positions. We'll hit them from the sides and cut off their advance." The battle commenced, an explosive cacophony that shook the very fabric of space around us. Energy blasts lit up the darkness, and the Endeavour weaved through the chaos, our crew working in perfect synchrony. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me as we engaged the enemy, each maneuver a testament to our training and resilience. "Captain, we're taking heavy fire from the cruiser on the left," Thal shouted, urgency coloring his voice. "Redirect power to forward shields," I commanded, adrenaline heightening my senses. "Engage evasive maneuvers." The Endeavor danced through the battlefield, dodging incoming blasts as we targeted the Blight vessels with precision. Explosions erupted around us, a vivid display of our united front. The Zarnath ships fought valiantly alongside us, their weapons firing in unison, each strike a reminder that we were not alone in this fight. But just as victory seemed within reach, a massive Blight battleship emerged from the shadows, its ominous presence dwarfing the other vessels. "This is their flagship," Samir warned, his voice laced with tension. "It's heavily armed and shielded." "Then we need to take it down quickly," I replied, determination surging within me. "Coordinate with the Zarnath. We'll launch a full-scale assault." As we directed our forces toward the flagship, I felt the weight of responsibility heavy on my shoulders. We had come too far to falter now. The resilience of our coalition was about to be tested like never before. "On my mark," I shouted as we closed in on the flagship. 3, 2, 1, now. The Endeavor erupted with firepower, energy blast raining down on the battleship. The Zarnath ships joined us, and together we unleashed a torrent of energy that d the darkness. The flagship retaliated, but we pressed on, refusing to relent. "Captain, their shields are failing," Thal called out, excitement bubbling in his voice. "We can break through." "Keep the pressure on. We can't let them regroup," I shouted, adrenaline fueling my every command. With a final surge, our combined firepower breached the flagship's defenses. Explosions ripped through its hull, a testament to our determination and strength. I felt a wave of exhilaration wash over me as the flagship began to disintegrate before our eyes. "Victory," Samir cheered, his joy infectious. But as the flagship fell, I knew the battle was far from over. The remaining Blight forces began to scatter, retreating into the depths of space. "We can't let them escape," I said, the urgency still in my voice. "We need to pursue and destroy their remaining vessels." "On it, Captain," Thal replied, determination evident in his expression. As we engaged the retreating Blight forces, a realization struck me. This battle had been more than just a fight against an enemy. It was a demonstration of the resilience and unity of our coalition. We had fought together, defying the odds, and now we were reclaiming our place in the galaxy. After hours of relentless pursuit, the last of the Blight vessels fell to our fire. Silence descended upon the battlefield, and as we regrouped, I felt a swell of pride and relief wash over me. "Captain, the Council is hailing us," Samir announced, a smile breaking across his face. "They want to congratulate us on our victory." "Put them through," I said, a sense of hope blossoming within me. The screen flickered to life, revealing the Council members, their expressions a mix of admiration and gratitude. "Captain Mercer, your leadership and the resilience of your crew have turned the tide against the Blight," Councillor Eldrin said, pride evident in his voice. "Today, you have not only defended the Zarnath homeworld, but you have also shown the galaxy that we can stand united against tyranny." "Thank you, Councillor," I replied, the weight of our victory settling upon me. This was a team effort, and I couldn't be prouder of my crew and our allies. Together, we fought against a common enemy, and we emerged victorious. As the cheers erupted around me, I felt a sense of hope for the future. We had proven ourselves, not just as individuals, but as a coalition of worlds ready to stand against oppression. In the days that followed, we celebrated our victory, but we also began the work of rebuilding and strengthening our alliances. The resilience we had shown would be the foundation for our future battles, and we were determined to ensure that the Blight would never threaten our worlds again. As I stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, looking out at the stars, I knew that we were on the cusp of something greater. The galaxy was vast and filled with challenges, but with the unity we had forged, we would face whatever came next together. And so, with our heads held high, we prepared for the next chapter of our journey, ready to confront whatever darkness lay ahead, knowing that our resilience would always guide us home.